What's good, you guys? Your boy Ben Mahari here, representing Mahari Nation Sports Podcast. Hope you guys have been enjoying the NBA playoffs thus far. It's been really, really wild, and these games have been absolutely fantastic. But the big breaking news story that has came out of the NBA today that the Milwaukee Bucks have finally decided to part ways with their head coach Mike Budenholzer. And for many in the basketball community, it was pretty much the inevitable because of how they performed in the first round against the Miami Heat. Now, Mike Budenholzer has been the head coach since 2018, 2019, and he pretty much helped them win their only championship in 2021. And I will say this. I will say that, he did a moderately, somewhat decent job in Milwaukee. But if we're really, really being honest with ourselves, it was pretty much the expected outcome after they lost in the first round against the Miami Heat. And if you were watching those games, you know, from game one all the way towards game five, when Jimmy Butler was just tearing apart the Milwaukee Bucks defense like nobody else's business, people were looking at Mike Budenholzer like, where are the adjustments? Where are the defensive adjustments and different type of coverages to try to stop Jimmy Butler? Now, there were times where Jimmy Butler was just scoring against one-on-one coverage, and sometimes they went zone a little bit to try to slow him down. But nonetheless, Jimmy Butler was given pretty much freelance to score whatever he wanted. And a lot of fans were really much criticizing, like, where are the adjustments? Where are the necessary, defensive tactics to try to slow down Jimmy Butler? And this is not the first time people have criticized Mike Budenholzer for this, because Mike Budenholzer, one of his main weaknesses about him is that he doesn't make, game to game adjustments during playoff series. It's one of the main reasons why the Milwaukee Bucks, despite winning the 2021 NBA championship, people were saying then that Mike Budenholzer was on the verge of being fired. If they didn't win that 2021 NBA championship over the Phoenix Suns, there's no doubt in my mind he would have been gone. But because of the fact that they won the title, it pretty much bought him, a few more years until ultimately what we see now. And so I was walking around, listening to other YouTube videos and reading different comments all over, social media. And I understand people were kind of sympathetic to him in a sense, because what people don't know is that his brother was died during the series, and there were some people that were showing sympathy towards him a bit, and I kind of understand to a certain extent, because what happened to his brother was pretty much a very tragic circumstance that you know that was pretty much what's on his mind, and I'm sure that he wasn't able to focus in as much as he should. But at the end of the day, lots of players, lots of coaches, they're all going through some personally in their own lives, especially during the season and during the postseason. And the ones that are able to focus in on their task and use that tragic circumstance as fuel and motivation to win, you know, huge things, which includes championships, are the ones are able to survive and perform at their very best. And I just felt that, Mike Budenholzer, if he was distracted by that, maybe that would have been the case. But at the end of the day, this is sports. Sports is pretty much a business. And the fact that you lost in the first round to one of the teams that's been one of your nemesis over the last few years in the Miami Heat makes it even worse, because many people had the Milwaukee Bucks as one of the favorites to come out of the Eastern Conference and possibly win the NBA championship. And the fact that you lost in the first round to a Heat team that's pretty much was undermanned and undersized, it was pretty much no excuse. You knew after they lost game five that it was pretty much the inevitable. So I understand to people that were kind of sympathetic, but at the same time, it's still a business. So at the end of the day, it was pretty much the inevitable that was what was going to happen after they lost to the Heat. But the other question is going to be, who's going to replace him as head coach? I got some few ideas in mind. I do like having Nick Nurse as their head coach, the 2018 champion from the Toronto Raptors. Now, here's the reason why I would like Nick Nurse as a head coach, because he's known for making in-game adjustments and quarter-to-quarter adjustments when things are not working, using aggressive coverages, zones, boxing ones, triangles and twos, different zone defenses, different traps. He's the kind of coach that is willing to make those kind of into game adjustments that Mike Budenholzer was not willing to do. And it pretty much played a major factor in why the Toronto Raptors were able to defeat the Milwaukee Bucks en route to their championship over the Golden State Warriors. So I would like to see Nick Nurse have a crack at this team, because if the Bucks are not looking to make any significant changes to the roster, then I would bring Nick Nurse in and see what he can try to do to make this work. And I really think he would bring them back to championship contention again. Another guy of mine, Charles Lee, a guy that was pretty much under the tree of Mike Budenholzer, and he's pretty much one of their up and coming head coaches that could really do well. But the only problem is that he doesn't have much coaching experience to really, handle a roster of veterans and championship contending guys. So that could be a bit of a stretch, but I think it could probably work out for him well. So that's pretty much two I have in mind, both Charles Lee, who was under the Budenholzer, coaching staff, who was his associate head coach, or Nick Nurse. Now, I've heard people say, well, maybe Becky Hammond should have a shot. I don't. I think that's just a PR nightmare that's going to be a disaster waiting to happen. So I'm against that move. So, but those are the two guys that I'm thinking of as good possible candidates for the coaching job. But at the end of the day, what I'll conclude is by saying this: sports is pretty much a business, and if you're not, performing up to the expectation that the organization is set for both the players and for the fans, then they're going to look for somebody else that were willing to do the job and do it better than you. So even though he won the championship in 2021, many people will say that it was in spite of Mike Budenholzer's, terrible coaching. So that's gonna be what the perception is. But you knew it was pretty much the inevitable once they got rid of him. So, but that's just my 2 cents of the whole thing. And I think that the Milwaukee Bucks need to do a good job of finding the right coach for this particular team. A guy that's willing to make in-game adjustments, use their size and versatility well, and more importantly, this is the big one I have: figuring out the rotation of most of the roster, because I did read reports that there were some players that were kind of lost of what their role was on the team and why wasn't that they weren't getting any playing time, particularly against a Miami Heat team that was mostly, a small team. So guys like Jay Crowder were complaining about the fact of why was he even here in the first place after getting traded here, and why wasn't it that he was given an opportunity to play. I know that there were a lot of guys on that team that were pretty much complaining about their minutes and complaining about what the adjustments that Mike Budenholzer was not giving them to try to slow down Jimmy Butler and that Miami Heat offense. So, but that's just my 2 cents. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. And with that, I'm out. Peace.